Alright, so we just finished going over this here, and we've realized that we have to figure a way to get in, a way to get out, and how to know we're out. Then we talked about counters, and we talked about accumulators. So let's go ahead and talk about code. In JavaScript, we have a couple other things we have to think about. One is, of course, we have to declare our places in memory. In this case, you can see I have a 0 going into counter and a 0 going into the accumulator. And the reason for that is if we do not put the 0 in there, when I try to go ahead and add 1 to the counter, if it has nothing in it, remember that is null. And we can't add null, so that'll end up being an NaN. And we don't want that. So anytime you're using a counter and an accumulator, you're going to have to start it with 0, or you're going to end up with an NaN or an undefined error message at the end. So I have a counter and accumulator, they both have 0 in it. And I also have my loop again, and I'm assigning yes to it, and that's what I use to initialize the loop. Here it shows I'm going into the loop, so that's how I get in. We have the same prompt as we did in our flowchart. That's how we get out. And I use an alert on done looping to show that I'm out. Now I could use a document right there if I want, but I like to have pop-ups popping up rather than waiting for the whole thing to end in order for me to get that document right. So when we go ahead and start this, it's going to add 1 to the counter and then a pop-up that says there's 1 in it. Then it's going to ask us how much. Now notice here we have a parse int, and if you remember we use parse ints when we're going to be adding something that comes in from a prompt. So this how much is going to be added to the accumulator, which has 0 in it. So if we have 0 and a plus sign and text 5, it's going to make it 05. It's going to join it rather than add it. So we use a parse int in order to change what's coming in from the prompt to a binary number. And now we have down here where we're adding it, we have 0 plus 5. Alright, so let's run it and see how this is going to work. So it's currently at 1, which means that we did this first, and now we're right here. When I click OK, it's now going to ask me how much do I have, and I'm going to put 5. And click OK, and it's going to give me this pop-up message that says I now have 5. So that's this right here, and now this is what we're looking at, this part of that. When I click OK, it's going to ask me now, do I want to loop again? I'll say yes. It shows that I took the 1 that was in it and then added a 1 to it, so now we have 2, and now I'm outputting it. When I click OK, it asks me how much do I have. This time I'll say 10, and now it says I have 15, so I have the 15 there. And that math was done here, and now I have this output. Then I click OK, and this time I say no. Next thing I'll see is a done looping, and I'm done. Let's see what happens if I take away the parse int, just so you'll see. Okay, I'm going to comment that out, and then I'm going to preview it. Okay, so it says I have 1. That works. How much stuff do I have? I'm going to say 5. So I have 05. You can see instead of 5 it says 05. That means because it joined the 0 and the 5 together. It didn't add it. Okay, then I'll go around one more time. So now I'm at 2. How much stuff do I have? I have 10. And now I have 0515. So you can see, as I say in class, the answer to all your problems is parse int. When you have this problem here, the solution to that problem is doing a parse int. So if we uncomment that, that'll work. Suppose I didn't have 0 here. Let's go ahead and comment out this. Okay, now when I preview it, it says counter is undefined because I commented it out. Alright, so let's just, instead of commenting it out, we'll just do var counter with nothing in it. And I'll be happy. When I preview it, it says the current counter is NaN. And that's because it tried to add 1 to null because there was nothing in the counter. So just remember that when you see the NaN, it's all because you haven't initialized the counter or the accumulator. And that's why. So we have to make sure that this is going to be equal to 0. So every time you have a counter, every time you have your accumulator, when you declare the variable at the top, make sure you put 0 in it, or it's going to give you an NaN when you output it. Also, when you're in doing your development, put as many alerts as you can in so you can see what's going on inside your loop. If you don't, you're going to have to put in 15 numbers just to find out at the end that it's not working. So if you use alerts, you can see how everything's working as you go through. Alright, well, that ends this lesson.